Are we live?
We are live, baby.
We're live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kanto Conversations Podcast. Episode, I can't remember what number, doesn't matter. Here with my co-host, Rob from Red or Blue, and special guest, Jarrod from Kanto Shark. What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a perfect podcast because Kanto Shark, Kanto Conversations, it works out.
Dude, match made in heaven. So, Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, man, doing great. You know, just got back from the gym, ready to go.
Attaboy.
Got my drink over here, you know.
You hit upper body or lower body today?
A little bit of both.
Full body, huh?
Yeah, my hands are like kind of shaking, you know, because when you lift that heavy weight, you can't really keep a steady hand. I don't know if it's just me.
Now he's got a Red Bull. Sick.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Just to amplify the effect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jarrod, how about maybe introduce yourself a little bit for the folks watching or who will watch it back. What is Kanto Shark and who is Jarrod?
Yeah, so I'm Jarrod with Kanto Shark. I've been in Pokemon for a long time now, about 10 years, consistently since 2017. I launched Kanto Shark in 2020, and the business has evolved into what it is today. I've done a lot of different stuff between middleman grading, offering acrylic displays, middleman services. Right now, my business is focused on consignments, and then also buying and selling my own inventory. In terms of me personally, I was a sales rep for an industrial company. I had done that for 4 years. I've done marketing and promotions for an NBA team. I've played professional baseball in the minor leagues, and I've done a lot of different stuff in my life, and I've used all those skills into Pokemon and transformed Kanto Shark with what I've learned in that. And I'm excited to talk more about the business and whatever conversations you got.
Let's see, first base or outfield?
Pitcher.
Oh, dang.
I'm really tall, so
yeah.
Right.
I've seen the picture of recently, or maybe it's on your website, of you and Mrs. Shark, and I could tell there's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, my wife, Vashti, Mrs. Shark, she's 5'2". So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like the VMAX version. She's just
That's awesome, man. That's cool.
Amazing. Too funny. Rob, where do you want to start, man? What questions do you have?
Yeah, I'd love to know, because I was in sales as well. I just quit my job to do Pokemon for a little bit just to have some fun, primarily because I wasn't getting treated right anymore, you know? And so I was with that company for 4 years, and I'm kind of transitioning my YouTube into more full-time streaming and trying to get that set up and buying new equipment and focusing on that. So I wanted to take a couple months off just to see what it would be like to be an entrepreneur. Obviously, you're like, I'm here and you're up here. Just kind of curious, like, what prompted you to make the switch full-time to Pokemon? And, you know, what type of sales were you doing beforehand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was an outside sales rep for industrial companies. So I was going to warehouses, construction sites, and I was selling primarily their safety equipment.
Okay.
Or up to OSHA standards. So all your gloves, glasses, stuff like that, to those businesses. And to answer your question, how did I use that, I guess, into Kanto Shark and transition? It was about a year-long process. I didn't expect for Kanto Shark to be able to even be a full-time income. It was really just a hobby, having fun for a long time. Right. And then I was like, it just progressively and organically grew. But about a year ago, I told my wife, Vashti, I was like, all right, you know, Kanto Shark's growing tremendously. I have a plan, and let's just see where it goes. And each step, it just continued. I get affirmation after confirmation of, all right, this is the right thing to do. It's growing, it's scaling. And when I would hit a speed bump, I would just take a new route and try to learn from my mistakes and continue going from there. When I started Kanto Shark, I had started selling display cases, and the rut that I ran into was quality control. They're scratched, damaged. When I'd ship it to customers, I would have to ship replacements because they weren't being delivered how I received them. And the reason I say all that is because I hit major bump after major bump. And I think what helped me was I was able to shift gears every time I hit a rut. Every time I hit just a wall or a big failure, or I got a big inventory order and it was completely damaged and I lost all of that. I was able to transition and find the right sector of business that I was happy doing, and that was successful. So I think everyone has their niche, and I found mine.
And for the people living under a rock, would you explain to some of those people what that looks like for you?
In terms of like business or like being full-time, or what do you mean?
Yeah, your niche, like what you do in the hobby, just in case you're brand new.
Yeah, if you're brand new, my business is around consignments. If you have trouble selling your cards, you don't know how to sell your cards, you don't know the best possible way, you don't want to take any risks of having any returns, any back charges, or you just don't want to do the work and you have too much inventory, then you can sign your cards through me. I sell it for you and I take a fee. Everyone can do that through eBay. Everyone can do that through other auction houses. I'm another option that's integrated into the community where I'm actively communicating with people on Instagram, which is a big opening for sales. A lot of businesses are operating through their website, through other platforms, but there's no businesses directly focused on Instagram users. And I feel like that's an untapped market. So if you're listening for the first time, Kanto Shark, if you need help selling cards, there's a way to do it. And it's strictly Pokemon cards, and it's strictly through Kanto Shark. Little plug there.
Yeah. So take me through that. Like, let's say I'm, actually potentially thinking about sending a card to you. So let's say that I have a card, and what would the process look like if I were to do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, what you would do first is you would go to kantoshark.com. And what I have there is the process. There's 4 steps, which is you'll read through our protections for the customer. You'll print out our form and you'll fill it out, and you're going to mail it with your cards to me. Once I receive it, then I'm going to email you a confirmation that I received your cards. They're going to go into our new vault, which maybe I'll show you all that tonight. Maybe I won't. I don't know yet.
Oh, interesting.
And then they will be listed in our next sale. Again, it's only graded Pokemon cards, sealed product. I don't want to deal with raw, and I'm only confident in Pokemon. I don't want to move into other TCGs. I don't want to sell something that I'm not knowledgeable about. I just don't feel right about that. And then they will be listed in our next sale. If they happen to not sell, then I just ask that you pay shipping back to you. I will also tell you whether or not the card I am confident that I can sell or I can't. If you send me a picture of it, hey, do you think you can sell this? I'm like, it's super niche. I don't know. I'll list it, but like, I'm not confident that I can sell it. And I try to talk with the owner of that through that process.
It's awesome. Seems pretty easy to me. I already know. I was looking at your website, but just in case people listening in, wanted to know. And I thought it was a really good option because I've seen you sell a lot of like higher end first edition base set Charizards. Things are kind of in the upper echelon of price. I mean, you do other things as well, like for sure. But, for people that may not have that exposure into that higher end of the market, selling at that, I mean, seems like a pretty ideal situation to send it to you, who has experience and, like you said, is a friendly face. People know who you are, well involved in the community, go to conventions and all that type of good stuff, sell it for them. I mean, it sounds like a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how the business turning out. I'm always growing and transforming, making the processes better, trying to offer better quality service. With my new website, which I recently launched, that's going to open the door for offering a more professional experience and offering front and back scans of every card. Okay. My prior policy was, just front pictures, because it's, as a business, you have to turn and burn. with the new website. It opens a lot of opportunities with different plugins, different applications that I can implement for the community. But again, it's still geared towards Instagram users. I think that's my focus, my market, and where all my friends are too in the community, such as, Rock Pokemon. We go back a long time.
Yeah. How did you guys meet?
Hey, Instagram, actually.
Yeah, it's Instagram, and I just can't remember who. Someone must have posted that you were middlemaning, or someone referred me to you. Because I remember when we first started talking, it was obviously way before. It was from my personal Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who referred me to you, because I wanted to work with all 3 grading companies, and I didn't want to have to send to all 3 grading companies. So, and it was like getting nutso. So I just wanted to work with someone who could do that for me. And the biggest reason was because you live super close to Beckett, and I'm a Beckett guy. So I was like, perfect. It doesn't have to be double shipped. He can frickin' drive him down the street. That was the hook. And then I was in. So, and it's obviously grown so much from there. And your following has exploded since then. Do you think that you are now in a better position, maybe even than like 6 months ago, to sell a wider variety of like Pokemon items? Like I remember before, I think at the beginning, like your niche was really probably like more like English WOTC, right? Mm-hmm. Now, like, do you feel more comfortable, like me as a Japanese collector, like folks, do you think you'll end up starting to get into like trophy cards and trying to help sell some of those for people? Or like where do you still see the majority of your following wanting to buy? What kind of like part of the hobby?
I look at it I look at who's following me. I look at who I follow and what they're posting most of, what people are enjoying collecting. And I want that to be my focus. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, I have seen a tremendous growth in what I would accept on consignment, because I get a lot of requests, and when I get continually requested, hey, are you going to have more Japanese, then at some point I have to listen from a business standpoint. All right, my following is really wanting Japanese. I need to actually listen to that and make a shift and start learning Japanese. So that's kind of my mindset of, if I hear it enough, I'm like, all right, I got to learn about it before I'm going to accept it fully. Mm-hmm. I have sold some Japanese, as you say, or originally I didn't sell any sealed product, but I'm like, all right, I need to learn more about sealed. I need to learn more about that. All right, now I can start selling it. So you might have seen that I started selling sealed product as of the last couple months. Well, that was a door that I opened that I didn't originally have open.
Interesting. Yeah, and obviously that's huge, especially now. I mean, there's just so many more sealed collectors than there were even a couple of years ago, right? So do you find yourself trying to source? I know you're doing box breaks now. Are you trying to source that from your following as well? Like, do you find yourself like wanting to buy things that come in the door, like kind of broadly? How do you manage that? Like, because also you're a collector, right? So how do you kind of not mix those things and stay disciplined
That's a great question.
Guys, there's no perfect answer. I have definitely purchased. I contact people that can sign through me. I'm like, listen, I want to personally buy this. I cannot list this. Like, I have to buy it. Let's work it out. And I mean, that's a great benefit. But I also, you don't want it to get, sticky or confusing when you do that. You want to keep it, keep the integrity and the honesty. What was your second question, your follow-up question?
It was, oh, well, that was more like broadly. And then I guess like, so not like mixing your collecting with your business, but also like, are you, as you move, like maybe talk a little bit about like what else you're doing outside of consignment, like with box breaks and other things, and how you're trying to kind of put all the pieces together. Like where you talked a lot about how you've adapted, right? You used to middleman cards, for example, right? That's where our relationship started. Actually, what started with, like Brett said, my buddy showed me your physical displays. That was how I first got in touch with you. And so obviously things have shifted, right? Now you do the Kanto Shark sleeves and things like that, and kind of the grading kits. So what does that evolution kind of look like? Where do you see it kind of going, or are you just like really willing to be malleable, or do you have like a kind of a defined like 1, 3, 5 year, goals and plans of, I guess, your like wish list of where it would go, or kind of where do you see things growing from a brand standpoint while being able to stay in your niche?
Sure. Let me hold off 1 second. I need to plug in my laptop here.
Go for it. Probably should do that too.
All right. I had to switch stuff around when my phone was giving difficulties. All right. In terms of box breaks, that was a recent new sector that I launched. I saw a need of it was kind of selfish, fun, and I wanted to have some fun breaking boxes. And I think that everyone can do that. And it's a really fun part of the community where I was always buying into other people's box breaks, and I wanted the experience of breaking my own boxes. So from a business standpoint, yeah, you want to be profitable, but it's more geared towards just experience and helping build a community, which is the most important part of this hobby. That's the most important part of business, which is just having a community where people feel that they can come back to, they can talk with. That's what really has grown my business. In terms of sourcing boxes, yeah, through my following. We got a couple boxes lined up, like Team Up. I want to appeal to everyone. So I'm doing more of I say lower end, but Team Up is still almost $1,000, but lower end, modern boxes, as well as WOTC boxes, EX boxes. I want there to be a good mixture. I am sourcing them strictly through Instagram. I pretty much never buy. I have a couple already lined up, but I don't buy through eBay. Not that I'm against it, but I have certain people that I trust with sealed. So I always recommend buying, especially a sealed, someone that you already know and have done business with before. Yeah. And then in terms of the business and where it's going and shark sleeves, shark sleeves, I want on Target shelves in 5 years. I'm going to hit it in a year. That's my goal. I'm perfecting the product. There's a couple of changes coming to it that I was getting feedback on, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. So a couple of changes on that, nothing drastic, but really perfecting it, and then really just knocking on Target's door. That's my big goal, because when you walk in Target, people want to not have to know which size of sleeves to buy, which card holders to buy, what brand. Like, all right, here's a kit, has everything you need. And Target right now, at least the ones that are local to me, don't have that option. So there's a need there, and I want to fill that. Additionally, the next order is you're going to start seeing Kanto Shark sleeves on some familiar websites that you know and love, and then also some apps that you know and love that are already solidified. So just growing and expanding to as many shops as possible, but a controlled scale. You can't scale too quickly, or as a shark, you eat yourself, So.
Totally. Are you doing any paid advertising right now for those collectors?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mainly depend on just my personal relationships that I build through Instagram. I keep saying Instagram, but really Instagram is such a powerful business tool for me and my business. It's just opened up so many doors that, just Instagram king.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, have you ever tried like boosting a post or anything like that through Instagram? Yeah.
Early on, yes. I would boost posts directly through Instagram. I found that the algorithm didn't capture the buyer base that I wanted, and it was more to casuals that follow accounts. What I found that was more beneficial was two things. One, which was partnering with other influencers such as Pallet Town Pokemon for shout outs, PokeJuice, stuff like that, because their names were solidified in the community. People trusted that, so they would at least be able to give you a shot. They heard your name, you planted the seed. And then two was, again, relationships with people, just talking, such as Connor. We've talked about so many different things, and that opened the door to be able to be on this podcast, which is really cool. And so it's little conversations have built up to this. We're live talking business and Pokemon. So
crazy.
Couldn't agree more, man. I mean, that's how me and Con got started. I mean, And that's opened up a ton of opportunities for sure. I mean, so many, like the smallest conversations has led to me. I mean, I didn't buy directly from Connor, but I've bought from Glenn, like his good buddy, and some stuff. And it's just like, you never know what's going to lead to what. And it's just really fun. You know what I mean? It's fun having like just little back and forth, little text, like, look at this, check this out. And then it just kind of develops into something more. And it's like, hey, did you see this? Hey, this guy has this. And, definitely has helped me like get, not only like my brand out there, but just meet more people, have some more fun, and a lot of opportunities for sure. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Connor and I go way back, making fun of grading companies and their ways. We've had some great conversations.
DGS coming soon, baby.
Yeah, coming soon, 2 years in a row.
It's unbelievable, man. It's actually crazy.
But going off, piggybacking off what you just said, Pokemon has really opened up, and Kanto Shark has opened up to meet really awesome people that I would never have met from all walks of life. I'm down in Texas, Southern hospitality. I'm not a cowboy, but like down here, burning up. And, I meet people from New York, just completely different walk of life, people from California that I would have never met that are way different than me, but we all can get along over cardboard, which is the craziest thing.
Yeah. That's why I like selling so much. Like, that's why I like even like grading cards with the specific intent to sell them. It's not really like, yeah, like the money's cool, but like, it has broadened my scope and how many people I've come in contact with just because of putting stuff out there on various platforms, Discords, eBay, Mercari, like the amount of people that have all funneled to IG and now built a following on, and like where I have a smaller following obviously than you guys, but I feel like it's fairly engaged, which is super exciting to me. And it's like it's become more engaged over time because these people are following me with the intent of actually interacting with me, not just because my photos are garbage. Like, it's like I like taking pictures of the potato. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's cool stuff, but whatever. And like, it's just about like how many people I've been able to connect with because of that and do business with outside of this. I interviewed someone today for a job that I met through the hobby, like through Instagram for my actual business. Like, it's just incredible how many opportunities that this hobby has created and how, like, as we all know, like just the explosive nature of nostalgic collectibles over the past couple of years, what it's done to like really change the way people have connected. For people like me who like never really got to talk to people about this before and just kind of did it myself and pretended like I didn't, on the outside. So I never thought I would have a social media presence like this ever. Zero. Like, I was not a social media guy before things blew up. Yeah. Crazy.
So just throwing a random question out there for you, Jarrod, because it's actually something that I don't have a lot of experience with. And the only thing that I've done, yeah, anyways. So and you touched on it actually before the call, insuring your cards. Is that something that you do? And also, like, let's say that you ship a high value item, let's say like over 5K, let's say 10K or more. How do you insure that?
Yeah. And every large shipment, part of the protection I offer the owner of the card is once the card's in my hand and I sell it for you, you're already paid and there's no risk to you. The insurance part, I insure every card over $1,000. Under $1,000, I generally don't. I don't, but I would personally insure that if it were lost or something like that. But over $1,000, I pay for the insurance through FedEx, UPS, that type of stuff. I generally don't insure cards with USPS because they will give the runaround when it is time to pay out your insurance.
Dude, they really do.
You might not see it for 6 months or a year. And you can't put yourself in that predicament. So any larger card, I've never had an issue with UPS or FedEx, and thank goodness I've never had a return for a card of anything like that. And then piggybacking off that, going into like international shipment, which is where the true insurance really matters. I generally tell people to always get confirmation through your buyer. They might want you to claim it low, but a lot of times on higher end cards, you have to deny that and say, listen, I'm not going to do that. I will insure it. And that's just how it is. That's how I do business. If you don't want to purchase it anymore, completely understand. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, like, I guess so. Let's say you sold a $10,000 card and you're just shipping it, in the States. Do you typically do UPS or FedEx and you just don't do USPS at all? And so you'll just ship it directly through that company. You'll buy the insurance directly through that company.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Generally those higher end cards, at least the last year, I've sold a lot of first edition base cards, and generally those have been cash deals, and more in-person deals, for the most part.
Yeah, because I got a couple of higher end items that I'm considering selling, and it's like, I think priority mail stops insurance at $5,000. So anything above that, and you have to go to registered if you're doing USPS. And I've done it before, and it's fine. But I was just curious if there's like a way, if there's anything out there that's like, I don't know, easy for higher ticket items. Because I think I heard like somebody, one of the Poke podcasters, talking about they don't like to do registered mail. They haven't done it in a while, and they kind of have their own methods. But I'm just kind of curious with that, since I know that you have done a lot of bigger ticket, sales.
I don't personally use this service, but there's a Pokemon specific business insurance or individual insurance, whoever there's a need. And one of their services is that they protect individual shipments. So not necessarily just your collection, but you can buy insurance through them for your shipments up to a certain amount.
Yeah, it's like umbrella coverage, so that when you're traveling or when your items are in transit, it covers all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Which, that type of business I think is ideal, because your general insurance companies, not an expert by any means, but they don't understand that cards fluctuate in value. Right. It's not just the market cash value. It's, hey, I bought this for 400. It's not worth 400 anymore. It's worth $4,000, or in Pokemon, $40,000. The way the market's been. I don't personally use it, so I don't want to say, all right, do that. But I do think it's a growing option that I think more businesses will begin to start using that, myself included.
A good guy to ask about that's Dan in the chat. Ketchum All Collectibles.
Yes, Dan's the man.
He knows a lot about that stuff. Dan lives about an hour and a half, 2 hours from me.
Right on
all the business aspects of flipping Pokemon cards, turning and burning. So, but has set up things really, really well from my outside understanding of what he's spoken of. So whether it's his retirement plans or his insurance or all the business structure he has. So, because it's important, like even for just someone like me, or maybe even like Rob, just like the fact that we're just now more than ever have to be more diligent on like the tax side and the record side, because rules are changing and there's going to be more scrutiny, and we're just going to have to do things, by the book a lot more maybe than in the past. So I always am like meticulous with my records and try to like really keep track of that stuff, because it's important. And people just don't know, or they don't think about it. Like when you start to really operate as an income generating entity, there's ways to offset a lot of that too. But if you don't like keep records, then you're screwed, right? Like go get a good CPA and figure it out. Right. And so like, does your wife do the taxes for Kanto Shark and like help you with that strategy?
Oh yeah, a little plug here, guys, or gals. Get you a significant other that does accounting and taxes, because it is a major help and it's not an expense on the business.
Connor's like, I'm single.
I'm single.
Yeah, Mrs. Shark, aka my wife Vashti. She runs accounting for several of the local churches around us, as well as an accounting firm. Her own business, so she does accounting for a couple different people. A lot of taxes, a lot of just keeping track of the numbers, and she does that for Kanto Shark as well. And she's done it for a long time now, and she's really good, and she's free for me.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Dude, that's awesome, man. I mean, I couldn't imagine how helpful that is to have a significant other, not only with that skill set, but willing to hop into the business and help out.
I think the biggest thing is you don't have to be good at everything in business. You just have to be good at a couple things. I'm not good at the accounting side, but she is.
Right.
So having that has just been a major blessing for Kanto Shark, because me, I'd just be, I'd be dotting T's, and crossing I's like completely the wrong way.
Well, you gotta build to create a successful business. You got to build a team, right? So how have you integrated C money into your business? What's that looking like as you expand that team and kind of build people with different skill sets into the platform?
Yeah, I got to a point. You get to a point where you need to start looking for people that are better at things than you are. And I'm no streamer. I'm not a content creator in terms of videos. I'm not a keep up with the chat live box breaking guy, but Colin is. So Colin, C Money TCG, we know each other personally. We actually live pretty close to each other, and he has a lot of experience that in his day job. And so what perfect match. So me and him began talking, and I created a position under Kanto Shark, and he is now the dedicated streamer, box breaker, as well as the shop manager. So he will be handling all my future consignments through the website. He'll be listing, managing that as well, which frees up your time. The great thing about Colin is he's very experienced. As you guys understand, in Pokemon, to hire someone, you can't just hire someone off the street like you could in just a normal warehouse or a built like any store or coffee shop. They have to have knowledge, and they have to have years of experience in buying, selling, trading, shipping, to be able to trust them, to be able to offer the quality of service that you represent. So that's been a major hurdle for me, which is giving up some of that as a business, giving up some of your name almost, and trusting that with another person. But Colin is the perfect person for that, and I fully trust him with the business, and he represents it very well. So Colin is integrated as, to answer your question, the streamer, box breaker. You'll see him all on the Kanto Shark box breaks, and then any card that you see listed on the website starting September 1st, he listed it. And if you're mad at the price, blame him. He priced it.
Oh, that's incredible.
How did the base set 2 break go? I saw you guys sold out, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be transparent with the box break because that just helps everyone. So base set 2 box break, that one was actually a consignment, and he needed to move the box. So they consigned it through me. The owner was from Canada, shipped it over. I told him I'd break it. Originally, we sold packs at $250, which was a little bit high, a little bit above market. I was trying to gauge the market where we were at. Decided after selling about a quarter of the box, you know what? Let's refund customers down to $200, give them a $50 refund for people that have already purchased in, and then continue to sell the rest of the box at $200. I felt that was more fair. It allowed us to sell out very quickly. And then in terms of like the details of the box break, it went good, but there's a lot of changes that we'd like to make. A lot of changes as in we want all packs to be ripped live. That adds to the experience. We only had 3 holo pulls and the rest was shipped sealed. So what we want to focus on the next box break, again, being transparent, don't want to hide any details. Every pack's going to be ripped live because people enjoy watching that. And I want it to be a little bit longer experience. 40 minutes is just constant ripping. So we're making a couple changes, learned from our mistakes, and we got Team Up next. We got a gym challenge, Cosmic Eclipse, Flash Fire, a good mixture coming up.
Awesome.
That's awesome. No, I can relate, man. I mean, we did, I recently partnered with Low Popping to do our first box break together. It's been cool partnership so far, and we decided to do first edition Fossil. And he sent me the box, broke it open, and yeah, we had 3 people willing to rip live, and we originally we were like, okay, let's do unweighed and let's see what that's like. Wasn't a whole lot of interest, and so we switched to lights and heavies, and immediately it started selling rapidly, and so and I think we sold 10 of the heavies, 3 of them ripped live, and then one of the guys actually traded Low Popping for his 5 heavies for something else, and so got a couple heavies back on the market again, but it would be great to just rip it all, and like to have that business model, kind of like the Poker Rev, where people just come in, get to see the cards, because as like the breaker, you want to pull those big cards in the box that are potentially there. And if you're shipping any sealed, like, we get it, they're sealed collectors. Connor's a sealed collector, I'm a sealed collector. It's like I have to respect that if they want it shipped sealed, but like, for the community, for the people, like, we want to rip it open. We want to have fun. We want to experience those cards together. So I definitely, I hope that you can get to that, benchmark where you're ripping vintage and everyone's ripped live, because I feel like it's tough to get to that point,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it most definitely is. It's really, I told Colin, we try to talk once a week. We meet once a week, whether video or in person, and just the steps of, hey, we're starting here. It'll be a slow progression of learning and getting better. But yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I ran into that this week where I had like some packs set aside that I wanted to rip live on YouTube, and it just, like, I don't know, I could have like waited probably till the end of the year. Seasonality time would have been better, but some guy just wanted to buy them, and I was like, well, I'm just going to sell them for whatever it was, a slight markup, because I'm shipping them to you sealed. And I just like did the deal. But that's why, like, I play in the lower end, obviously, but I pre-sell all my breaks and everything gets ripped. Like, I'll send you everything if you want it, but everything gets ripped. I just think it's way more of a fun experience for everyone. Yeah. People want to see the big hits get pulled. And that just like, it just feeds into itself. The community's happier. It feeds into the next break. You've got, people buying in, like, not with their money, but I mean, they're engaged. You know what I mean? They want to be there because that's what they want to see, So it's definitely one of the more interesting parts of the hobby. I think there's a lot of, I would love to know your viewpoint, Jarrod, on where you think box breaking is going to go over the next couple of years, because we're starting to get this polarized discussion around whether or not whatnot YouTube breaking, like what we're doing, is going to sustain or stay or exist. And like, obviously, like, I've candidly made videos where I'm like, hey, I think if you're buying Modern Seal, you're betting that breaker culture is going to be a thing, because I think that's a way that you drive premium on hyper modern product. Is in 5 years, people are going to want to rip it open. So I'm curious where you think that's going to go. Like, are you trying to like kind of not take advantage of, but strike while the iron's hot? And do you see that kind of changing over time, or what does that look like as you kind of view the hobby?
I see box breaks as a marketing play more than anything going forward for businesses. And for building your brand. If you don't consider yourself a business, but you're more of an influencer or individual building your brand, because it's free reels, it's free videos, it's free content. And with that, it can continue to grow your business. I think that it's almost a marketing expense going forward. You might profit on the box itself. In terms of box breaking and how that's going to change over the next like 5 years, I think that I try to look at other hobbies, but I try to also separate it as Pokemon's a different beast. I think modern breaks are going to continue to grow along with streaming platforms like Whatnot, Drip Shop, YouTube breaks, Instagram breaks. I think that I don't see an overwhelming number of people doing it yet. There's a lot, but like I just don't feel it's flooded yet, and I think we have a couple more years of just it'll just be constant breaks. And I just don't think we're at that point, in my opinion. I think that vintage, I think it will help the vintage market in terms of if you look at, say, the Magic market over the last couple of years. I'm not in Magic, but I do keep track of sales history, stuff like that. A lot of different products have dried up over the years from breaks. I think that the availability for vintage boxes are going to continue to dry up with more ways to break them. 5 years ago, we didn't have the presence on YouTube. We didn't have Whatnot. We didn't have Drip Shop. Instagram was baby. So now it's just a completely different market where there's so many avenues to break it that it's going to change the game. And I just don't think we all understand how much it's going to change.
Yeah. I think your point's like really well taken on like the marketing aspect. Like, I think that the spread's going to narrow, right? Like the margin that people are going to be able to make or what they're going to be able to charge is going to go down. It's right now, it's still pretty wild, right? Depending on the structure, depending on the platform you're on, like in candid, like I'll say this to anyone in my following, cause I don't really care. Like, and Rob knows this, like I'll break a box of modern Japanese, right? And it's like, whatever, I'll break the box and I'll take in like 80 or 90 bucks, right? And that box maybe cost me 45 or 50. Like that's pretty wild. And if you do like, I have streams where I'll do like 6 or 8 boxes at a time. Like that's not bad for a couple hours of hanging out, right? But I think that, and then I have the luxury of being able to be the cheapest on the market no matter what, because I know I'm getting it super low. But I think you're like seeing people still try to squeeze blood out of rocks. And it's just wild to me that I don't know. It's not that wild to me because people are always going to take advantage of people. But I think that we'll see those spreads start to narrow. Like you won't be able to break boxes at such a premium anymore. Like I don't know. Some of it still amazes me. Like I'll keep track of like Pokerev's, like his website and stuff. And like, he'll be selling like a Japanese jungle pack for like $300. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Like you're getting it ripped live with a dude with 1 million followers on YouTube, but like you're also paying like 2.5 times what you could get that for yourself and open it for yourself. So like that, it's like, how long can that premium sustain? How long does the influencer premium like command its premium, right? That's what I think about a lot. And like, to your point, you can narrow that spread, you can reduce those prices, but then you can charge it off as a marketing expense. You can still you still win as a content creator if you actually like know what you're doing from a like accounting, like money standpoint, right? Not to get all technical on it, but it's fascinating to me. It's going to be really interesting because we've seen it evolve so much already. And honestly, you're 100% right. Like the live breaking market, like not just for Pokemon, but in general in the Western world is multiples smaller than it is in like Asia and the rest of the world, for example. So there's tons of untapped potential for supply, which then leads to more gross sales. But I don't think the margins can stay how they are. I just don't think it's possible.
Do you think that with how good Modern is and all these artworks and these chase cards and how expensive some of these chase cards are hurting the vintage market?
I think it's completely separate.
Like what? And I don't know, maybe this is just like conspiracy theories, but I feel like because like when I got back into the hobby a few years ago, right? Like the Modern chase card is like a rainbow rare, and it's like, it's cool, whatever. It's kind of fun to pull, but pulling these alternate arts are next level. I mean, they're so beautiful. They feel so good. And, you know, you got multiple chase cards within set like Eevee Heroes that are selling for, you know, over $500 if it comes back rated 10 or whatever. So it's like, do you think some people are just focusing on modern and buying that and trying to rip that if they want to open packs, or potentially just buy it and hold it because they think that, oh, it's going to do better over time as compared to buying the vintage? Because when I got back in, modern was like kind of like a joke. Like people investing in modern was like, you're a noob. Like don't pay attention to these people. And now it's like a real deal because I feel like it's kind of changed. The market has changed a bit, and I've just seen like a decline on, I wouldn't say all of vintage, but a lot of it I have seen a decline on, yet modern has gone up, you know, and a lot of like interest in modern has really gone up. And if you look at all these Poke Podcast channels, I don't see really a lot of them talking too much vintage. It's all modern. It's all speculating and talking about it. So I don't know. It was just a thought that I kind of had the other day. Like, are these modern alternate arts where how beautiful they are, like actually impacting the vintage market at all? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's been a shift in the Pokemon culture between vintage and modern over the boom, because prior to 2020, as you said, modern was a joke. Exactly. I viewed it as that as well, as just a younger, you know, investor slash collector, you know, closet collector type person. And there's a shift. And I think modern now is investable. I think it's the least risk in the sense of you don't have to put up a large amount. And the demand is high enough right now where there is liquidity. I think that it's a lot less risky than vintage right now. I know that there's a sales history of 20 years for vintage Pokemon products, but right now, as you said, the demand is with modern, and there is a culture shift, and it is investable. The margins are there with modern tremendously right now. I would argue that it's easier to move modern right now than it is vintage.
Yeah, and it's like for me, like with the Eevee Heroes reprint, I'm finding that I'm selling some vintage to buy that modern.
Yeah,
that was not a thing before. You know, it's like
well, it's a lot easier for an item to go from $100 to $200 than it is from $2 to $4 grand. You know, it's just the margin's the same, but it's just that's just the way it is. So I think there's a lot of opportunity with that. I've seen a lot of growth myself, but there's always been opportunities in modern, but just a lot of people didn't pay too much attention to it the last 5 years, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's changed. It's different now. It's different.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's definitely there's a shift, for sure. And it's like I definitely was, for a long time, buying, holding for a little bit, and then selling, and then buying more vintage, and just kind of repeating that cycle. And now I'm finding myself kind of really diversifying a lot. And it's like this stuff that I'd be selling normally, I'd just be buying vintage again. And yet I'm like, man, I'm looking at stuff that I would buy or whatever, and I'm looking at comps and sales price, and I'm like, man, a lot of vintage hasn't moved, or it's gone down, and I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of people holding on to a lot of vintage, which I don't know where that's going to go. Just this week, I did a deal. I posted on my Instagram story. It was $18,000 worth of modern product that I had traded for a first edition Charizard first edition base. And the owner of the modern product had just continually purchased a house full of modern product, and he was ready to move it into vintage. So I think there's a lot of people out there like that, and I don't know how that's going to affect the market. There is a lot of modern product. So that's another topic. I don't know how it's gonna play out, because in the past we didn't have, like what Connor was saying, we didn't have Drip Shop, we didn't have Instagram Live, YouTube, whatnot. We didn't have that, so it's gonna be completely different than 5 years ago, like in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's funny how complicated it is.
It is. There's so many factors.
How many more? Yeah. Then and imagine being a person who was not part of this hobby and just trying to enter in like the deep end. Like it's a tangled mess, honestly.
Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of modern product. Now, at the same time, there's an immense amount, I think, in my humble opinion, still sealed vintage product out there. I think there is way more WOTC product than people estimate, which creates its own problem as well, or potential issue as well, right? But I think that this is an interesting question, because I think we should maybe like clarify what we're talking about. And Obi was just asking about like buying the single versus ripping, and so how like that collector or chase mentality kind of is going to drive into the market as far as a demand for modern. I don't know. I think that obviously it's like generally the smarter fiscal choice.
Oh yeah.
But people are irrational and will always be irrational and emotional and want an experience and seeking a thrill and seeking that endorphin rush. So it's like, yeah, but easier said than done, right? Like I spent $500 on Whatnot today on like a middle of the day walk facing a Weiss ST. Like I obviously could have gone and bought the $100 SP, but I felt like ripping 6 boxes because I had never opened the set
and before. Not pulling it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, whatever. So like, great. I just burned money. And like, I think I'm a fairly like rational, educated person, but I still want to do that sometimes. Right. So I think it's like, don't underestimate the human condition, right? Like don't underestimate how foolish we can be. And how that's going to play. And that's what I would say.
That's why I think Whatnot will always be a thing. They've been tremendous in capturing investment money and then pouring it back into their marketing and growing. I mean, I'm really impressed by the ownership, the decision-making of Whatnot. Yeah. But going into it, I think Whatnot will continue to grow. It's the 2020, 2021 QVC. It's the young, hip, cool way that our generation makes purchases. Mm-hmm. I know we had touched on that earlier, but just want to plug that.
I think part of that is like people don't realize too, like they'll talk about Whatnot as a platform and like Pokemon, the bubble bursting and platforms like that failing. And I'm like, do y'all realize like my friends who buy vintage clothes who know nothing about TCGs, just know I have like an Instagram, or like, hey, have you heard of this thing called Whatnot? Like I get really cool vintage clothes on there. And I'm like, yeah. I've heard of Whatnot. But like the amount of like a huge part of what they're doing with the amount of money they've raised is building an expansive team that can drive them into more categories than we could ever think of. Like we get so narrow focused and we're like, it's a card opening platform. I'm like, it's not a box breaking freaking platform. It is a live buying experience that runs across so many different, industries or verticals or collectibles or whatever. And that's how it like exists worldwide. And you're right. It's the, like my grandma, when I was a kid at, 11 o'clock at night watching freaking QVC and infomercials wanting to buy stuff, or
we can find a broom that vacuums too. Like,
and they would buy it and we buy it because it's marketing and we're stupid. And that's how they get you. And
summary of the podcast, buyers are stupid.
But what we like don't realize is like, it's just giving like more people the opportunity to be their own, QVC or whatever. Right. And that comes with its own problems because people have no idea how to run a business, be a good seller. To your point, it's why people, I think, in my opinion, like you, will be so successful is what you're doing, because you treat people well, you have a high level of integrity, you know why you're doing it, and you also have like a brain for like the business aspect of it. And that's actually what I worry about the most in all of it, is people having bad experience with people who are purported to be businessmen and women who are really just collectors who now have a platform and think they know how to buy, sell, whatever, and end up just treating people really poorly, and people exit the hobby because of that. And that's a risk for sure.
Absolutely. I think that you had said something earlier. Whatnot with TCG, I believe that that's just the guinea pig, and like what you said, this is just the beginning. Whatnot's going to transform into a different platform, much like Facebook ended up being something than what we anticipated. MySpace, in a bad way, ended up being something that we didn't anticipate it to be. Even Amazon didn't know what it was going to be. Whatnot's going to be something different than what we all know and understand it as. It's going to look much different in 5 years.
Imagine if you had been Bezos at the beginning and you had said, yeah, I sell books online, but let me tell you about this thing called Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get any item you want in 12 hours to your door. And people have been like, what the frick are you talking about? It's funny how, like, I don't know why, like, and this is not to like be a jerk, but like people just really think they're way smarter than they are. Mm-hmm. And like somehow we, the collective we in this little niche hobby, think we are bigger masters of the universe than folks running a multi-billion-dollar business. Like, I don't know why people have to kind of like, I don't know, not flex isn't the right word, but posture in a way where they like,
I get you.
It's just odd. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a little bit of the, I don't know. People get blown up a little bit in this hobby because it's so much of an echo chamber, right? Which is why, like, I don't know, good people are really important. I just think it's funny, man. I just speak my mind because I got nothing, like, I don't know. If I lost all of it tomorrow, it doesn't really matter. So, like, why would I hold back? I just think it's like quite interesting, to be honest, the personalities we have, right? Mm-hmm. So
well, I think it's in a bull market, what we've seen in the last 2 years, it's really easy to be an expert because naturally when you get some big sales and you're making the right moves, every move was a right move the last couple of years up until about, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, whatever it was. So that can build your confidence, which is good. Don't get me wrong. You got to have a happy arrogance about yourself to be successful. Mm-hmm. You just don't be a jerk about it. But everyone made the right moves. If you didn't, like, not that it's about the money, but if you didn't make money the last 2 years in Pokemon, then I just don't know what you're doing. Like, you were in the hobby. Like, everyone made money. Everyone did.
Yeah. The knowledge barrier was so low.
Yeah, it was. Oh. So I think that plays into why people think they're experts. Because once you make a couple good moves, you're like, oh, I'm on top of the world. Like, I always joke with Vashti, if one guy gets one compliment or makes one good move, he thinks he's just the absolute shark. You know what I mean? And that's just how we are as people. But I think we'll see less of that going forward, actually, that mentality, as it continues to cool down and we're in a more stable market, which is healthy and awesome.
Yeah.
And more enjoyable to be a part of.
This is way better.
Yeah.
Friggin' 18 months ago, it was so stressful.
Yeah.
And it, like, it just, like, there were so many bad things.
It was chaotic.
There were some good things, but it was like some of the biggest anxieties were like having to sell things you didn't want to sell because you felt like you had to, right? Or I felt like I had to, right? Because it was irresponsible not to. That was one of the hardest things as a guy who just likes to collect stuff, like,
or just things getting out of control for your PC. I mean, dude, there's guys in the hobby, content creators, I'm not going to name names, that FOMO'd into buying certain collection goals at way high prices that have dropped way significantly lower. So it's like, I feel like because it moves so fast, it hits so hard that it's like, we didn't really know what to do. You know, a lot of people were, it was just, like I said, it was just kind of chaotic. And like, you were selling stuff, you were trying to buy stuff. You didn't really know where the shoe was going to drop or how far or how much. And you had guys like, I remember Jake was just like, throughout the whole thing, he was like, it can't go up forever. you know, but it kept going up and up and up. And I kept watching his videos, and it's like, okay, I'm getting proven wrong here because it's continuing to go up, but he's like, it can't go up forever. And it's just like, I definitely bought into it. Well, it's not going to fall as hard as it did. I thought that it would be a more gradual fall, but a lot of things, I mean, they just went off a cliff, you know? Yeah. So yeah, man, it was some crazy times for sure.
Yeah.
Financial background helped for me because a student of markets, it translates across markets, right? So, and all of us collectively from this experience are going to very much be able to take advantage of future situations that happen in whether it's the stock market or real estate or collectibles. It doesn't matter because having watched this acute period, hopefully you have learned, the collective us have learned something from what has happened here.
Yeah.
And even if you made major mistakes during this boom period, you learn from them and you hopefully can recover from them, but also like execute correctly when the next thing comes around and whatever it is, crypto, stocks, real estate, you know, you name it, freaking crazy bones. I don't know what's going to be next, man.
What's one of your biggest mistakes you've made in the hobby, Jarrod? If you're willing to share, I mean, don't feel the pressure to, but me and Connor have spilled our guts on, you know, some big mistakes that we've made.
That's a great question. I can name a couple mistakes. I don't know about the biggest.
Sure.
I try to always learn from them. You know, it was from shipping, international shipments, getting burned on those, not handling those correctly. I always recommend new buyers to always ask somebody if you've never shipped out of the country before to do that. I've been burned on selling vintage packs, high-end slabs early on before I was a business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a really good one, a good juicy one to share. I don't think I've had any blowouts, but I've had a lot of mini failures. I consider them mini. I don't let scams or I don't let stuff like that block me from just continuing on in the hobby. But that's because I had been in the hobby a long time and knew what to expect and my experience. Going back to what Connor was saying about your experience in finance, I really enjoyed your write-ups on finance during the hype of Pokemon because it directly translated to what was occurring. And I think that, I just want to plug this in there, I think that should be a thing again. I'm just saying, like,
you know,
the blogs.
I wanted to say that. Yeah,
start typing it up again. You never know.
You got to send me those, Con, because I've heard a couple of things about those.
They're really detailed.
I got a Google Drive.
Yeah, really enjoyable.
But I got a Google Drive.
Man, you were asking failures. I promise I'm not perfect. I've made plenty of failures that you taught me. Like, I've made a ton.
Talk about like why you stopped middlemanning for grading companies. What happened like through that process?
Okay, so the reason I stopped middlemanning for grading companies is a couple things. One is because I couldn't offer the quality of service. It felt I was letting my customers down because one, it was a long backlog, and not that it is, but it feels as the person submitting that it's on you, and that it's your fault.
Totally.
You're doing the absolute best that you can, and there's delays when you get cards back. If you do, they're in different orders. Additionally, I had hired a part-time employee to input cards. I learned that when you're handling people's collectibles, a lot of those mean a lot to people, and having them submitted incorrectly, or they get mixed up and half the batch goes to one grading company, half to the other, that's on my name, and I accept that. I take that as my fault because I hired that person. So I think Connor brings up a great point. Probably my biggest failure in the hobby was opening the grading service but it was also a big learning experience. I closed the grading service because cards were getting mixed up. Cards were going off to the wrong grading company. Cards were mischarged. It was a tornado of just lots of mini problems that added up. And I didn't like how it made me feel as a person trying to offer what I could. So I stopped accepting cards about a year ago. And now I'm trying to transition to getting all the cards to the people, tying up loose ends, getting everything out the door, and just completely wiping my hands. I don't want to tell people what to do, but please, please, please don't grow into a mass grading service, because it's really hard to scale because you have to trust the people that you hire. And if you hire the wrong people, that can really bite you and your brand in the butt. And you have to figure out, it's really hard to figure out tying whose cards go to who.
Yeah.
Also, you didn't submit it. And then, but that's on you. Like, that's your fault. So figuring that out, just as a person, not just business aside, just as a person, I didn't like how it made me feel.
No, I totally get it. I mean, when I sent my cards, when I first started doing it, I would send it to Rusty, and he would do it through PSA. I don't think he does that anymore either. But I remember, like, I could not wait to get my cards back. You know what I mean? Like, it meant everything to me, like waiting for that returns to come back, and like how exciting it was. And like, you're right, collectibles mean so much to us. Like, I mean, for some people, it can be, financial income that they're relying upon. Others, it's just childhood cards or whatever cards they pull. It has nostalgic value. So it's like a culmination of things that, makes us so passionate about this hobby. And so, like, nothing ever happened. It was above board. Great guy. Everything was perfect, But if anything were to happen, I would be like, dude, so bummed, Like, so I never thought about that before.
This week, I got an email from PSA that they had damaged a card during encapsulation. And so, and they're offering a refund, and that's great, but like, that's somebody's card, and it wasn't a super pricey card, but that could mean something to them. So I don't know which customer it is yet. I'll see when I get it back. But that type of deal, even those factors that aren't on me, it's still on me because they trusted me with that, and I need to be able to deliver that product.
How many cards came through the door for you guys?
A little over 10,000.
Oh my gosh.
I handled it as long as I could. Then I hired somebody. And so, as you see, you have to scale to be able to take on that volume and keep it going. You don't want to just stop it, but then, it was good or bad.
I cannot even imagine the grading fees. Oh my God. That's a lot of cards.
So what happened to get to that point? I mean, did it just happen all at once, or was it like very gradual, or did it happen really rapidly?
I didn't realize there was an issue as I was not submitting the majority of them until some CGC orders started coming back, because CGC was pretty good at getting it back to you in a reasonable manner, even during the backlog. But once they started rolling back and some of the orders were sent to PSA instead of CGC and vice versa, that's when it started dawning on me, there's some mistakes. And that's not just one or two. It's understandable if there's just a couple mistakes here and there, but there's a lot of mistakes. I'm like, all right, I got to start tying up loose ends. I got to close this and make it right with everybody. So it was a gradual thing. And then I was like, all right, we can't accept cards anymore. That was the first step. And then 2 was, let's get everyone's cards back and just close it entirely and never open again.
How much backlog do you think you still have, like, estimate out of those 10,000?
I have around 6 more PSA subs that are in the same grading stage as the cards that I sent last month, which is grading. I have another 5 to 10 BGS subs, and of course CGC is completely caught up.
Yeah.
So
I love me some CGC.
I do too. They've grown on me a lot. I like them a lot.
They're not. It's not. It's like Beckett Jr. In my opinion, right? Like, it's pretty. Similar quality of like product, right? you know, nice and clear cases. You know, I know you're all about that. Like I mean, they've been doing comics forever, so it was pretty natural. I brought that up kind of because Ancient Mew was asking, and I kind of answered in the chat, but you know, binder collector and then wants to grade some doubles, not in a hurry to sell them. Where do you send them? My take is you just wait to see where grading fees go. Like if they're for you, just grade them with whichever company you like better if you don't really care about the resale value. If you care about the resale value, wait. If you want to sell for sure, still probably wait if you don't need to sell now, you know. I know for me, like I like to have inventory now, like I said, because it's fun. So like I just go to CGC because I know it's gonna be done in 3 weeks and it's back in my hands. So I'm willing to take the 20% hit on the value just to churn and have fun and see what I can do, you know. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Waiting to see where PSA ends up. I think CGC, there's a good opportunity for cards, say not this exact number, but cards say under $50 or maybe $75. I find sell at PSA prices, but the higher you go in terms of sale value, the more it separates from PSA is what I'm seeing, at least with my consignment inventory, my personal inventory. And then, yes, what grading service would you guys recommend, CGC or PSA? Just as Connor said, I agree with Connor. Who do you like the most? A lot of people like to match blues with CGC and cool black or red cards with PSA. I do the same thing.
I've got these. I started opening some Akora, and like these, for example, are gonna look crazy good in a CGC slab. Like it's gonna be the color.
Yeah, especially with the clarity of the CGC slab.
Yeah.
I also think that condition has a big factor in regards to where I'm going to start sending my stuff to, because CGC is really starting to go up in my book. So I don't like that they switched up their paradigm, and it's like the people that bought the perfect 10s of the pristine 10s that were never getting handed out before have now taken a huge value drop. Like that sucks for those guys. But in the same stroke, it's like for the hobby in general to have a grading company like CGC where the grading fees aren't that much, the turnaround times are really good, and also you can have a shot at getting that perfect 10, which people like. It's like really fun to chase that. And like, so like if I have a modern card and it's not quite perfect, but it'll probably get the PSA 10, it might be worth to go to PSA because it'll probably yield a solid premium and got a good label and all that stuff. Or maybe you like collect PSA, whatever. And their prices are lowering, turnaround times are getting better. But like if you have a modern alternate art that you just pulled or some other card or whatever, and it's like you're looking at it and you even got the little, you know, I forget what they're called, the jewel scopes or the, you know, to really measure the cards, and it's like a perfect card or a good candidate. I mean, why not send it as a shot at getting that perfect 10? You know, I think that it's kind of cool, you know, for sure.
That's why I've been dumping them twice, because it's like I could do a higher service level at Beckett, and like that's like they're actually moving those cards. But it's like more comfortable for me. There's something to be said about like liking the brand, right? You know, like, or really it's more the marketing team, right? It's like I've been treated well by CGC, right? I've been grading with Beckett since I was freaking whatever, 10, right? Like, or like at least exposed to them, like at card shows. My uncle used to run a sports card show. They would be there, whatever. But there's something about like, I don't know, like I've never really liked PSA, and I've never heard anyone be like really excited about being a part of grading with PSA, right? But I feel like grading with CGC, it's fun because it's part of like the next iteration of the hobby, right? And you're like, yeah, it kind of sucks that like I have a lot of things with 8.5 surface grades, like definitely like 9.5 surface grades. I don't really care, right? But I think what's super interesting now is like how many people are trying to slab optimize, right? So like I've gotten real good at cracking slabs lately. Not something I've really done much before, but been doing it pretty aggressively. But what's funny is like people want to like, okay, this cert and below, crack it and resubmit it, or crack it and send it to PSA instead, like CGC certs. It's actually really interesting when you look at like the earliest, like the first cards I ever got out of CGC, and then like 3-7 certs. And then you start to look at like the kind of the next tranche and the next tranche, and how I actually think they did a really bad job at the beginning. Like, really, like, it just makes no sense. Like, I was looking at some to potentially crack, and I'm like, that's probably less of a grade than it actually got, right? And that's always subjective and it's a small sample size, but I just think it's interesting to have watched them iterate and grow. It's like the early days of the other companies, right? And they have all iterated over time. And I find it fascinating because grading is really fun and it's cool. And it's, I don't know, it's one of the most fun parts of the hobby for me, I think. It just creates this really interesting, like, I don't know, case study, really.
Dude, nothing better than getting the returns. It's the best.
Freaking banged a perfect 10 on a Weiss card this week, and I'm just like,
on top of the world. You got your victory.
Yeah.
You can have your happy arrogance the whole week now.
Yeah.
I can spend $500 on whatnot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh yeah, this card's coming in. I'm gonna sell it as soon as it comes in. I'm gonna spend money now, baby.
It's unreal, bro. It's about psychology. It's a joke.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point about grading, and it's subjective, and the grading standards changing. I saw an interview with Nat Turner, owner of I guess Collectors Universe, and aka PSA, and he was being interviewed by, who was it, Cardboard Investor maybe, at a show, and he got asked, hey, did PSA change their grading standards the last couple of years? Now, he hasn't always been the owner. It's only been a couple of years now. And I think what's interesting is, in my opinion, Nat has to say no. And the reason he has to say the grading standards didn't change is because he needs to protect early investors into the company in the sense of who graded with him early. People like Gary, people like whatever. And if you hurt them, then it trickles down to all of your customers. So I think it creates an interesting dynamic of, in my opinion, the grading standard changed. I've taken advantage of the grading standard changing in the sense of there's certain cert numbers where it's a better chance of it being a better quality card from what I've seen. Now, whether the data backs that up, I don't know, but there is something to be said there. Right. With Nat Turner saying that, it opens the door to discussion, like, you know, by legality, does he have to say that? Does he have to protect his company? Or what if he were to say, yeah, we did change our grading standard, not officially, but we've gotten better at looking at cards? Is that actually the answer? Like, I don't know. And there never will be a solidified answer. It's subjective. But I'm interested to see what y'all think about that, about grading standards with PSA specifically.
So there are a couple interesting things there. First of all, the grading standards have to change because they keep buying and adopting different technology to make grading better. So it is literally impossible to say the standards haven't changed.
No, Connor, they spent $10 million on technology, but the grading standards are the same.
Standards are the same.
Yeah, they wasted the
money. They're looking for the same things, man. I think that, you know, there's always this thing where it's like people are like, 2 certs are super weak for PSA. And then it's like, no, buy the card, not the grade, which like I'm a proponent of. But like sometimes you can't really know how good the card is until you get it in your hand. So you got to use the cert in conjunction with whatever freaking garbage eBay photos you get, or some dude on Instagram going like this. And then you make an educated decision with all those elements, and then you get it in-house and see what you're going to do with it, right? So there's definitely, like, the standards have changed across the board at all these companies, right? I mean, CGC has been coming out and saying that they did, right, publicly, especially a lot at the National. There were a lot of people who spoke to CGC people who said you should probably send in your old CGC cards and see what happens. I mean, I cracked so I sent in Weiss when they first opened Weiss, right? Like the day they started accepting them, they were out the door. And I got a bunch of 9.5s, and I just cracked one of them that was like the biggest card that I didn't want to keep. 10, pristine 10. Like, I'm like, and part of that, I don't think that was necessarily a standard change per se. I think it was they got better at grading this TCG, for example, right? Because I would show it to other Weiss collectors and they'd be like, yeah, I don't know why that's a 9 centering. It's pretty well centered, like, for example. So that's part of it too, is how it's so difficult because standards are one thing, but how people execute on those standards are a totally different thing, right? Who are these people you're hiring?
I think it's like a new eBay user. Follow me here. A new eBay user might say their super played WOTC base set Charizard is mint. Got like, but they don't know, they're uneducated. But as they are in the hobby, as they get more experience with cards, they're like, oh, that's not mint. That's more played. That's like a PSA 5 to 6. I think that companies such as PSA go through the same growth spurts as regular people because they're people. They saw a card. That's how they understood the standards when they started. And as they graded more cards, they're like, oh, actually, no, that's a little bit more played than initially I thought, because they grew and matured in the hobby and experience. So I think companies follow the same path that individuals do in terms of understanding how to grade cards and the condition of it. What do y'all think?
Yeah, it's subjective, but it's tough, like, to balance, because it's like, okay, so I've had people who like won't buy 2 certs, like they won't buy it. You know what I'm saying?
I won't do it.
Yeah, and
I buy 0 certs,
and it's like I like this card right here, Umbreon EX PSA 10. It even has the little new thing in there. Whoever did that when I bought it, they did the new one. It's a perfect card. Like, if I were to resubmit this with a newer cert, it would 100% get a 10. You know what I mean? Like 100%. And yet people will be like, no, it's an old cert, I won't buy it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I really like what Connor said about taking, because whoever gave this a grade, obviously, like, you could say that they're professional, but there's been so many newer submissions that have come back that have been wildly misgraded. I mean, just really low. Like, they'll grade them really, really harsh. I've seen like a lot of like really bad misgrades as of late. Again, it's probably just, whatever, but it's like taking what a grading company is saying is a grade as compared to what you think the card could get. It's all speculation. It's all like, so it's about just like taking the card, looking at it and seeing it and saying like, is this something I'm comfortable with, as compared to just like blindly saying no to this, yes to this. I'm also curious about, like, have you tried to sell some of these younger certs, the earlier certs, and have a harder time moving those? Obviously, I'm imagining if a vintage card has a newer cert, it's going to move fairly quickly or a lot easier. Have you like run into any troubles with people wanting that, or no?
The reason I don't think old certs are bad. I think that, as you say, you have to look at the card. Generally, I find newer certs are easier to sell, so I have to follow what the culture is doing and appeal to the mass market. So most people associate newer certs with a stronger grade. Again, not necessarily, but I generally try to follow and stay away from older certs because everyone seems to have the idea that newer certs are stronger, which in turn is easier to sell.
Right. And that makes total sense.
My biggest problem with the old certs is the fact that the holders have seen so many iterations that a lot of the oldest, like, the cards bouncing around in there for freaking 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, unfortunately, we have to follow, like, I don't like grading. Oh, yeah. Got a little protein shake in there, yeah. I think grading in itself, like, I don't like it because I feel I'm more experienced than someone sitting there grading a card. Like, I know the condition of it. However, we have to abide by the culture of card collecting, which is grading your cards. I don't like it. I think the same thing with new and old certs. I don't like it, but we don't have to, but I would like to abide by that. You have to almost follow what everyone else is doing to.
No, it's a great point. I think it's funny that like, and I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I just remember like just this absolute like hard shift where like everybody was like, it almost was like never an issue or never even talked about. And then all of a sudden, like content creators started talking about it or whatever it was. And then like all of a sudden it's like old certs are bad. Don't buy old certs. Like, and it just happened really, really quick. Like the cutoff, it didn't feel gradual to me. I don't know.
I'm definitely pretty outspoken about new and old certs because a part of my business model for my personal inventory was finding undergraded PSA slabs and sending them to Beckett, which I found was easier grade, especially in the 8.5 and 9 realm. An 8.5 at Beckett, there's so many condition like ranges in just an 8.5 grade. I found that there is an arbitrage opportunity. And so just being transparent, a lot of the PSA 5, 6, and 7 Zards, I would never sell in a PSA slab. I would always crack because I'm like, man, these are great, strong cards. Like, this has got to be a Beckett 8.5 or a 9. And it was. And people perceive the value a lot differently between a PSA 6 and a Beckett. Oh, yeah. They relate it more to closer to a PSA 9 price. Yeah. So it's just, I'm just finding a lot of people, how do I say it? I don't know. I think more people understand as they get more experience. Like, we have way more experienced collectors and investors now than even a year ago. People understand way more. So I'm interested to see where the market's going to go in terms of upgrades and cracking like yourself, hitting the 9, 5, and 10. And I have so many cracking stories that's unreal.
The Venusaur, no.
Poor Venusaur, right? One card that died.
When you would cross grade like that, would you be cross grading from older certs or newer certs? Just curious.
I would try to find, not to bash old certs, but I truly only found crackable cards in new certs. I'm sure there's old certs that you should crack and would go higher, absolutely. But I found the majority was newer certs, so I made that my focus and my niche of finding cards.
That makes sense.
A lot of the first edition Zards that I sold this last year in a Beckett case were really clean PSA Zards, and they didn't deserve the grade, in my opinion, that they had. So every Zard that you saw on my page that was in a Beckett case, I cracked it from a lower graded PSA slab.
That's awesome.
Like, the hollow is clean. Like, this is not cool. Yeah. If I resubmit it to PSA, they're going to get, within a grade, pretty consistent within a grade difference of what it was. But Beckett, there's a lot of opportunity there. But you have to know what you're doing, if you're going to do that.
There's always like plays on both sides, right? So like I was looking at a pair of, so it was Shining Gyarados Japanese and then Shining Magikarp Japanese, and they were both from 2001 Beckett 9s. So like they were graded like 6 months after the set came out. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, okay, this is really interesting because if I could get this pair at a reasonable price, and I think they're nice cards, they have great eye appeal. Me as a collector, I will enjoy them in Beckett slabs. I could sell the pair I have and make money on the whole deal, right? Now it's a lot of friction, but there's also plays like that, right? Where as a collector, you might be okay if you can get the same level of card or even one that has like better eye appeal, but maybe the issues are on the back and it's, a true 9 or whatever instead of a 9.5 or who knows, whatever. But you can optimize your collection around that, right? It's like picking up doubles that satisfy you as a collector. And I thought that was interesting because like when you're talking, like you have an opportunity where for your personal collection, you can do something totally different than what you're doing for your business. So it kind of like allows you to like play both sides, right? Which is probably difficult in some ways, but also kind of broadens your opportunity set of deals you can look at.
No, that's exactly right. You're able to get 2 cards out of the price of 1 with opportunities like that. And like with your, you said Shining Magikarp and Gyarados combo. Yeah. Now, something interesting is I found that older graded Beckett cards are actually graded more harshly than newer graded Beckett cards. So as you said, it goes both ways. Like I've seen there's so many different like little sections that I'm like, I'm noticing a trend. Again, no trend is true, like 100% true, but you got to look at the majority. And what I see is older graded Beckett stuff. There's opportunity there if you can find it. A lot of those cards are in the back. Yeah.
It's so cool. That's my favorite part about the Beckett Pop Report is that you can see when it was graded.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
that's interesting.
Talk about like a piece of history within a piece of history, right? Like a pair of the most iconic cards in the hobby, right? In like the WOTC era of the hobby, especially in Japanese, because they were so difficult to pull, that were graded within 6 months of the set releasing in Japanese. I mean, those were like packed to sleeve, like back in the day. You know what I mean? I said that to someone when we were talking about it this week. I'm like, that is, as a just like a collector nerd, that's such a cool like piece of collectible history. And then one of them sold and not the other while I was trying to look at a deal for them. And I was like, well, I can't not have the pair. I mean, so my buddy might have bought that one. I haven't asked him yet, but yeah, stuff like that is really cool. It's like, it's intriguing. It adds another element to the hobby, even though grading is kind of wild sometimes. And I worry.
It's an extra layer of nostalgia is what it is. Like seeing the date like that, it's like, oh wow, that's cool. Like you can relate back to that time frame too.
Yeah.
When it was graded.
Yeah. There was I remember when before I pulled that base Zard at the pop shop this year.
That's cool. Yeah.
What a freaking awesome thing. I was just like, I was looking for base Zards, right? And I found an old Beckett one that I was pretty intrigued by, and the price was pretty good, but it was hard for me to stomach that as not a very Zard guy. You know, sorry.
Those old Beckett cases remind you of like the old Beckett magazines, and you know, just it's nostalgic in itself.
I'd show you guys, but I packed it up to be shipped off. The Pokemon Beckett Collector magazine I picked up this week.
Yeah, that's a grail, man. That's a great display piece.
It is unreal. It's going to grade so poorly, but I don't even care.
It doesn't matter.
I wish I could just like get it authenticated with CGC, but it's going to look so good. And I bought it in a lot, and they're sweet, like intact inserts, intact posters. Like those things were really cool, those magazines. So yeah.
Jarrod, what do you prefer, Jarrod, for grading services, like for your personal collection? Do you like PSA or BGS or?
I like PSA. PSA for my personal collection. So that's simply just because most of my collections already, if I'm completing a set like first edition base or evolutions or whatever it is, it's already in PSA cases. So I just continue the trend. Nothing against Beckett or CGC. I think there's a lot of opportunity for business with Beckett and selling. High liquidity with Beckett slabs, I find. And then CGC also from a business standpoint. And just getting it for your everyday collector too, getting it back quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for the hobby.
Yeah.
And then kind of random like tree branch. I think the more grading companies we see, the more products, the more services in the hobby, the more people introducing new stuff. It's just going to continue to grow. I think that's a good sign for the Pokemon hobby, which is more liquidity options. The more there are, the better. The more products there are. I'm seeing Zion cases, graded guard. I'm seeing shark sleeves. I'm seeing all that type of stuff. I'm seeing new binders and whatnot. I'm seeing new apps, collector apps, investment apps. I'm seeing blogs, websites. The more we see that, I think that the hobby is just going to continue to grow. It's a good sign. Definitely not a dying hobby.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, it brings up a great point. Curious, how many cards are you away from completing that 8.5 first edition base set?
It's hard. It's really hard to complete that 8.5 because not only is it 8.5, it also has to be thick stamps, and then not only on top of that, it has to be a new cert. So it's very difficult completing that. While I'm completing that, I'm also working on a 7 set, and I'm just 2 cards away on it, just because 8.5s with those criteria don't pop up. I have someone teasing me right now with an 8.5 Venusaur, which hasn't gone for sale in like 2 years, at least that I've seen. Big stamp. It was pulled in a Logan Paul break. I happened to find cert numbers from his box break, and I started cycling up numbers, and I found an 8.5 Venusaur. I was like, I have to find the person with that 8.5 Venusaur, and it's never going to happen. And they knocked on my door. I found him.
That's incredible.
He knocked on my door, and I was like, funny story. I was so addicted to 8.5s, I cycled up Logan Paul's cert numbers. I'm like, this has to be his break. These are the pools. They sent it off in order. It was perfect. I was like, you are the card that I found. And so he's teasing it. He's like a little donut in front of my face, like, just like, I know you want it. I know you're doing 8.5, so he's gonna get my money, but it's just.
Does he just want too much at the moment, or is he just not willing to sell yet?
He is mainly looking at trades. He's trying to complete a first edition base 10 set, and the money is not important to him. So he's mainly just looking at the collectability of the cards. So he's like, if I get, I'm going to end up paying like $2,500 for it, or $3,000, whatever the price is. So we're around there, probably almost the 9 price, basically. But he doesn't care about the money, and buying from people that are chasing first edition base 10s or trophy cards, it's really difficult to buy from them because money is not it doesn't entice those people at all. You have to really build that relationship to get those cards from them. But to answer your question, I still have like 8 more 8.5s to get. I'm getting there.
You got the Charizard, though.
Got the Charizard. I got the Mewtwo, the Alakazam, a couple of the other hard ones, but I need a Blastoise to pop up. I mean, but I don't know. The pop
Here, man. Why don't I send you this guy and see if it crosses over?
Man, is it thick stamp or is it thin stamp?
It's thin. No, wait. Yeah, it's thin. It's thin. Yeah, well, never mind. I didn't think about it.
With my experience with first edition Venusaurs cracking them, they always get stabbed by a screwdriver.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I had never cracked a slab before this year.
Wow.
Same.
Just
what made y'all like start? Was it, trying to upgrade and get it, and what was y'all's first slab that you cracked?
I got them right here.
Oh, actually,
you go, Con.
The first slab that I cracked was this. So was that this year, or was that last year, Rob? No, it was. When did PWCC get kicked off of eBay?
Oh, it was last year.
Okay, so it was last year. I got this Mysterious Mountain pack.
Mm-hmm.
It was a PSA 9.
Oh, yeah.
And I got it for like the price of like less than a light pack.
Wow.
And so I didn't really crack it because with the old PSA slab cases, the folded ones, you just kind of opened it from the back. So I did that, and then I put it in a this is Silver GT.
Yeah.
So and it looks great, even though it was like folded for however long. So that was the first one I did, and then the first slab was this is really dumb, honestly, but it was just a 8.5 vending Ditto from CGC that I just really wanted in a 9, and I think it's going to be a 9. It's actually, I just entered all these in today, and I'm sending them out tomorrow. It's this card. And they just don't come up in 9 a lot, and they're super overpriced. So I bought an 8.5 for like $20 and I cracked.
It's a no-brainer, honestly.
Yeah, just like screw it and see what happens, whatever. So that's where it started. And then I started, so to your point of the 8.5 thing and money not being an issue, trying to rip these out of people's hands who are collecting the set, because I'm collecting this in PSA 9, and there's like, most of these have like 5.
Yeah.
There's 5 PSA 9s.
That's worse than 8.5s.
There's 7. It sucks.
Yeah.
And so I cracked a bunch of 8s, and I'm just going to see what CGC does with them. I'm just going to science.
Yeah, you got to roll the dice. Yeah, science, good analytics.
Yeah.
See how they turn out.
Yeah, so I did 3 of those, that Ditto, and then I did that Weiss card that just, that's huge because I couldn't move that 9.5 to save my life, and I'm going to sell a 10 like that.
Yeah, easy, no problem.
No problem. So that's me. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, it was Beckett.
Oh, Beckett.
They were two 9.5s to the obvious PSA 10s that I think that they'll get. But it was for the July special.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it's a good time. It's the Lily's Force from Dream League, so that full art, and then the 25th anniversary Japanese Umbreon Gold Star.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seemed like, for how low the grading fee was, that I'd go and try to do it, get a few more dollars if I want to sell it. But I really like both those cards, so I might just hang on to it. I pulled the Umbreon myself, out of those promo packs. So we'll see. I always like the option that PSA brings, that if I do want to sell it, that, if a 10 compared to a BGS 9.5 is going to most likely yield a higher, value there. But, and I also just wanted to crack it for science just to see, let's see if my eye's right.
How did you feel cracking it? Because it's cracking a card for the first time, and you started with a 9.5. I was cracking like 4s and 5s and 6s when I started. So cracking a 9.5, like, I'm sure your hands are sweating and just like, am I doing the right thing? And how did you feel?
I'm not gonna lie, I went in so hot.
Yeah.
And it took me about 10 seconds, and I was like, oh, that was so easy.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah.
Now I'm getting bold already, and I'm gonna screw up 100%. Like,
hey, yeah, don't pull a Venusaur, dude. Just don't. It's
no. You see what Ancient Mew said? Shining Raichu right to the screwdriver. You hate to see that.
Yeah, you hate to see that.
You hate
that hurts.
It's that's the best part about CGC, I think, though, especially with like older certs or like cards that I was getting really cheap. There's always that optionality. Like, it's always there. I can always with CGC, like if you have something like this, right, where there's a 3.9, so this is probably a true 9, like looking at the card. But like if I wanted to get subgrades on this, I don't even have to crack it.
Yep.
Like if it's just for me and I think it's going to maintain the grade, I mean, there's always the risk of a downgrade, but you just send it in like a normal submission. I wouldn't recommend that for cross grading, but to add subs if you wanted. I mean, this was like $15 or $12 or something.
CGC makes it so easy. There's no question about it.
That's, yeah, the accessibility is nice, so the options
I was literally thinking of you, Jarrod, when I cracked those. I'm not gonna lie, because as soon as that happened, I think Connor sent me that video, or maybe I just saw it on IG. I can't remember how it came about it, but I was like crushed for you. I was like, my gosh. Ouch.
The funniest part was I had cracked so many cards, and as Connor said, I got so bold that you stop paying attention because it becomes so routine. Right. And generally on every card that I crack, I would go from the side. And the funniest part is when I posted that video, the amount of tips and advice I got was
man,
on cracking cards and just the jokes. It was honestly not worth it, but it was pretty funny. Like, I love hearing people's comments on it. And
it's almost like the washing machine Charizard from
yes, yeah.
I got to see that.
I think of her name right now. Ivy. Ivy.
Yeah, Ivy. And doesn't Ryan's Card House have it now? I want to say, if that's the same one, I don't know.
Yeah, she auctioned it off. They did like a charity auction.
Gotcha. Okay.
Could be the same one, I assume. I don't know who that is, but that's what I remember happening.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I was actually I forgot to do it. I literally forgot to do it right before I was about to send the submission out, and the post office was about to close. And so I was like, all right, I'm doing this right now. Let's just go for it. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just took some like pliers in my random tool bag that I have here. And I just like tried to go for the corner and crack it. I stuck a screwdriver in there, a flathead, and I was just like lifting for like everything. I was like, please do not damage this card. But I was in a hurry, man. It worked out, you know. I don't know how many more slabs I'll be cracking though.
I think I just picked the right tool off the get and I got lucky. Because I got like 12 like plier wrenches for my toolbox. Like, I don't know. I just picked one that looked like it worked right, and it works perfectly because it catches the corner in the crimp.
Yep.
And it's super easy. I don't know. I was surprised. I wasn't even really that nervous, but I'm also not dealing with first edition base set hollows. I'm dealing with vending sheet dittos, which are a little different.
It gets a little bit nerve-wracking, but it never goes away. It's like I used to play baseball, and before every game, your palms get sweaty, your head's racing, you're excited, you're anxious. Same thing cracking a first edition base card. Like it's nerve-wracking. I'll share this. The 9.5 first edition base card that I sold was actually a 9 prior. Cracked it and hit the 9.5. But the reason it's cracked is because it was so clean. Again, new cert PSA. Really cool card. In terms of cracking other company cards like CGC, I know of a 9 Shadowless Zard, and it ended up being a PSA 10. So a PSA 10 Zard that you've seen sold this last year, yeah, that was a CGC 9. Again, really clean card, not taken away from the card. It deserved to be a 10, but it was a CGC 9. So a lot of opportunity cracking, but the issue is you got to really know what you're doing, as you all know. Like, so anyone listening in, just start cracking every card. Like, don't do that. There's a very big process. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of stuff that you process that you have to go through if you're going to crack a card. And, it starts with asking the owner the questions of what the condition is, get their opinion, their take on the card, typing in the cert number on PSA's website and looking at the scan of the card yourself, looking at, if you're buying off eBay, looking at the feedback of the seller, just taking it all into account, not just buying based off a cert number. We don't want to, I want to just plug that.
Yeah.
Not buy off a cert number.
Really buy the card, not the grade, and just use the cert number as an element.
Right. And then find your trends. I found certain trends, but find your trends that you seem to like, I find better quality cards than this. Do it, but make sure you do your due diligence. So if you're listening to this, don't just start cracking cards. Please don't do it. Please.
It's actually addicting.
It is.
Oh, it's like, because it's exciting, right? Like, especially now seeing the results. Like, I told the guy, I sent him the scan. I go, this is a 9.5. It is misgraded because I know Weiss and CGC evidently did not. And then I said, hey, it's back from grading. Here's the 10. And he's like, wow, it came back at 10. I want to buy it. And I'm like,
fine.
But like now it's like, it's that psychological game, and I know guys Dan, who was in here, like he's cracked a lot of slabs recently, and it's becoming a thing. And I'm wondering how much no one is sending those back to PSA and telling them they're not in. I mean, remember that broken slab that I sent you? You probably don't, but
it was a Machoke, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Machoke, there were like 3 of them in the pop. Ended up selling that card raw.
Yeah.
But I have another one now, but it's like I don't remember where I was going with that, but it's like that PSA is never going to know, and that's like a very low pop card and will be in the foreseeable future most likely. And no one's ever going to know that if there's 3 of us who want a complete set, there ain't going to be 3 of us who get one unless another one gets graded, So it's crazy to think about with some of those low pop kind of niche stuff, but That's been a fun set to chase. So I was curious.
Don't look at the pop reports for the 8.5s for the first edition base, dude.
It's so low. And the fact that I don't even know if a full 8.5 thick stamp new cert set exists. I'm just chasing. So it's a weird chase because you're like, I don't even know if that exists, but I'm going to buy them when they pop up.
How often are they? I mean, they're rarely giving out 8.5s nowadays anyway. I'm so surprised. I think I saw that Venusaur. I might call me crazy, but I feel like I remember seeing that because I remember it being a new, I don't know, maybe it was a different card, but it was a first edition new cert that was an 8.5, and I was very surprised because it just
doesn't, yeah, especially right now, PSA doesn't really hand out the 8.5 grade.
They don't do qualifiers either. They're freaking grading stuff that I have. Those Bondi cards that are 9s, like my buddy has a couple 10s too, where it's like, it's just totally shifted and they're not giving the OC qualifier. They're just going for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What prompted you to start that, Jarrod? Just curious. Like, did you just see an 8.5 and you're like, man, I actually really like the way that looks, and you research the pops and they're just low, or was it something else, like an actual decision that you wanted to do, or what?
It started with a collecting heart. So I bought the Charizard it was $4,000 in 2018. Bought it for $4,000.
Already graded?
Already graded from Charizard King. A little plug for Murph, good friend of mine. We always have a good time. I'm sure y'all saw his comment in the in the post. But
he wore me down on my Call Legends PSA 10 Magmortar today. I finally sold it to him.
Nice.
To complete his set. He's been wearing me down, man. I finally
hopefully
all right, man, I'll sell it to you.
Yeah. It started from a collecting standpoint of, all right, I had the Zard. At the time, didn't have money for the 9 because the 9 was significantly more for personal collection purposes. So I was like, you know what? I always wanted first edition Zard. Never will sell it unless I do upgrade to a 9. But in the meantime, I was like, let's try to put a 8.5 set together. So it was a collecting idea of just the personal collector in my heart of, I want to complete this and have the only one. It's cool having the only one of something. And it's almost like a trophy at that point. I'm like, I set out to complete the evolution set, right? There, angles are weird. Complete evolution's holo set. And it's like a little mini trophy. It's what kind of brought me back in the second time into the hobby, kind of that set. So the collector in us just takes over sometimes, and we just have to complete it, and we just really go after it. But if you're a content creator or you're a business, that can be detrimental because you can, as a person, business aside, you can spend too much from your personal income, apart from the business, on your collecting habits. So it's a balance of chase, collecting, hopefully conveying correctly.
What are your go ahead,
I was just gonna say it's the hard part about chasing sets now, like stuff that if you've been collecting it and going, if it's been like a long-term goal and all of a sudden long-term became like way more expensive because you waited. And so with the set I'm chasing, it's like I bought a card for $80 today. That should have been like a $10 card. And I'm just like, really, Connor? Like,
could have gotten most of the set for $80 back then. Yeah.
But
let's change the subject.
Yeah.
I bought my first 8.5 this week.
I remember you sent that to me. I was proud. I was like, 8.5 brothers.
I might crack it.
That's hilarious.
I gotta see it in person first, but it's got a killer swirl, so I'm all about it.
What else are you collecting right now, dude? Beyond, I mean, you got the Evo set, right? The PSA 10, the holos. Those are done?
Those are done. Doing the 7 first edition base set, doing the 8.5 set as well. Getting there on those. And then in terms of collecting, I've hit all my goals of just miscellaneous cards of first edition Shining Charizard. I don't need a 10. I got a 9. It's a great card, gold stars, stuff like that. So I'm mainly putting away for personal investment, a lot of modern product actually. Again, not a shilling way, but I'm buying team up boxes, Evo boxes, stuff like that. I think there's a tremendous value in those sets that are fun to open. Hidden Fates, the amount of Hidden Fates ETBs is just unreal. I think it's such a fun set, and it brought a lot of people back to the hobby, just like Evo. So it's almost like it's an iconic set. So I'm buying that, but not for like collecting purposes. It's strictly just personal investment. I think they're going to grow. So I'm speculating on them, seeing, all right,
for sure,
cost basis, Hidden Fates ETB, $150. Will it hit $300? I think it will hit $300 within a couple years. Different ones like that. Other plays are a little bit longer, where like Brilliant Stars, I think there's a play there, but I think it's a longer play. So just kind of money-based purchases right now, if it's outside the business, just
so
a store away.
So do you think you're investing more in modern, as to say, as compared to something vintage, like like this Golden Sky Silvery Oceans? I bought this because it was like a really good deal that I found, and it's like there's not a lot of them out there, you know what I'm saying? It's so, and maybe it's just the opportunity that came across at the right time at the right moment. But again, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, about how modern has changed and how people are investing a lot more in modern as compared to buying vintage. Are you still buying a lot of vintage to set back like some of these maybe scarcer items, sealed product, or maybe low pop PSA 10s or anything like that? Or are you just like, do you know what? I really like modern. I see a lot of value. I see a lot of upside. I'm primarily focusing a lot of like my extra, funds on that.
For personal collecting, I'm doing vintage, obviously, when I see a good opportunity, because vintage prices are low, and I'm like, low as in comparison to the last 2 years. If you look at the last 4 or 5 years, they're still really high. But personal collecting, still vintage for, as I said, investment, speculation, selling in the future, just modern. A lot of the vintage stuff, I don't see as much opportunity in terms of just selling to make money.
Isn't that interesting?
It's changed. It didn't used to be that way. I didn't used to think that either. I thought vintage is the only play, but I was small-minded, and I've expanded to, Connor will be really happy when I say this, expanded to Eevee Heroes. Jumped in Japanese. That's a great set. Not to shill it, but it's fun. Yeah, there it is.
Chill it.
It's a fun set, and
open that box maybe
for money purchases. But do I have nostalgic to it? None. Zero. I will never keep it long term. Have no problem selling it. Some of the personal collecting items, it hurts to sell, as you guys know. Like you said it earlier. It hurts to sell. I think one of the ones that hurt the most, but is also amazing, was the first edition Shining Zard I have. I bought for $1,200. To over $5,000, and I sold it to buy my wife's engagement ring. I was like, I got to capture gains, and then I ended up rebuying it back at almost the price that bought it for. Not almost the price, but bought it for, I think it was $3,000 from collectible investors. So halfway in between. But at the time, that's hard to let go of. It's for a great purpose, but it's hard to let go of some personal items.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Maybe not a lot. A little more recently, like it's crept back into my mind, like actually thinking about what I want to keep and what's really important to me.
Yeah.
But I'm never like in a rush to like nothing, like everything that's out here that I like put on display and like to like come in this room every single day and look at my stuff. None of this do I think about selling, or really, other than inventorying it to like protect myself, like insurance we were talking about. I don't really think as much about the value a lot, but sometimes I do like reconsider what I really care about. Like I moved like some legacy, like sealed stuff from other TCGs that had gone up, that like it was just like sitting in this stupid Target bookshelf thing. And I'm like,
yeah,
what am I going to do with this? Do I really care if this like $60 box that's now 120 goes to like 300? Like, I don't know. Do I care that much, or do I just want it gone and I can go buy some more Weiss or do something fun, like freaking buy some cool cards when I go to Denver, collect a con, like you start to make choices like that where it can fuel like experiences. But I worry sometimes about, because it's not really a business for me, like getting caught up in the hype of like the churn and selling, and then ending up like selling something that I not regret selling, but like I'm like, I probably should have just let that sit on the shelf because I don't need the cash. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just something I kind of like struggle with now more than we've ever had to, I feel like.
Yeah. Now that I'm not getting that steady check coming in, it's like I'm doing a little shameless plug here. Going to do a huge slab sale tomorrow on IG on my story of some cards that I really, really like, but they're not forever pieces. You know what I mean? It's like, I've really had to like dig deep in regards to like, what do I really want to collect? And it's okay. Do you know what? I've gotten a chance to own these cards and hold them up close and see them in my display every single day. I come in this room and touch things and, kid in a candy shop. And it's like, that's cool. I don't have the funds to be able to just be a buyer. Like, I have to be a seller too. You know what I mean? To keep it going and to get after the next thing. And who knows, maybe that thing that I buy that I think's a forever piece might end up changing later down the line. As long as it's for me, as long as I can make money doing it and I'm having fun in the process, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's huge, which is selling your personal inventory to keep the turn and burn going. As you said, I sold a lot during 2020 and 2021 of my personal inventory, but it got easier. The first couple sales were really hard, but to continue going, it's not just unlimited cash flow.
Right.
So you have to figure out creative ways to continue to go and build. And it's hard, but it does get easier. Throughout the time, I've condensed down to just the favorites that I have. And apart from that, it's that's it, just pieces here and there, the 8.5 from what I've done.
The funny thing is, people would laugh if they like actually knew me in real life, because I have very little in the way of possessions outside of what's in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a few other collectibles and things, but like I don't.
You've said that before. You don't like things.
I don't like things. Like I don't have a lot of stuff like at all. I don't know. That's kind of like weird to say and sounds stupid like do this, but there's a couple pieces of sports memorabilia that connect me to my dad. There's my electric guitar and like some books that I like. And that's basically what I got. Like, I don't know what other things am I supposed to have? This is way more than enough for me, and it is that like, how do you like try to consolidate some of it, especially collecting a set of 155 cards that are all in a freaking box right now. Basically, like I can't even display them yet. Like I'm going to have to move stuff or put stuff away. That's like, I don't care as much about like the store of value, like just owning it to own it and not be able to look at it, like it kills me. Like people who I know have to like put a lot of their high end stuff in like say, boxes and stuff, man. It's a bummer. Like it's the right thing to do, but I don't know. It's such a bummer.
Were you always like that? Were you always, you want to display your collectibles, or did you transition to that as you got more mature in collecting and stuff like that? Because I just recently got into displaying the stuff, and I used to be the guy that would just throw it in box and never look at it but once a month. But now I'm just like, I'm going to put it on my wall, or I'm going to put it on a shelf, or I'm going to put it on the desk.
So I said earlier in the podcast, like when it comes to like Pokemon and kind of like the more like pop culture stuff, I used to like I just have like 4 gun safes, and they used to like go in there along with other stuff. Right. And but growing up, my room was always full of collectibles. Just most of it was sports memorabilia. So like I had built-in shelves in my room. I had the same room, same house growing up my entire life. So I had built-in shelves with football helmets and baseballs and all sorts of stuff. I would have, signed hockey stick in the corner, art on the walls, Michael Jordan signed print on the wall, like all that stuff. There's a huge Syracuse basketball thing outside my door here that I've always had of the national championship team signed by everyone. Like always had that stuff on display. And then like in my closet, I had like a shelf for like the nerdy stuff. Yeah. It was weird. Like I put it like up. I had like a walk-in closet and it was like up along the thing where like no one could really see it, but I knew it was there. And that's where I put a lot of that stuff. But because I was like an athlete and like that was really my identity, that was the stuff that I always had out. And I have some of that like out in the main room of my apartment now and a couple things in here. But yeah, definitely have developed into displaying more of this. And I matured as an art collector too. So there's like a lot of that everywhere. Like my walls are just, I have a lot of art. Like I have more art than I can put on my walls, which is another hard thing because that's a pain in the ass to store, but it's another topic. Yeah, definitely developed as far as this is concerned for sure. Because it's easy just to like store it away and not think about it, but then you're not appreciating it. Like I said, and it's not, I don't know. It's not as much worth owning if you can't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What about you, Rob? I see you got a lot displayed behind you. So it's
yeah.
Did you always display your cards or did you, because that's a cool, I mean, it's an interesting topic for collectors because everyone's different. I know people that don't display at all. They don't make it known. They don't have anything. And clearly you have a lot of stuff behind you, just as Connor does.
It's tough because it's like I want to enjoy what I buy, but at the same time I want to be safe. And so like for a while I was putting a lot of my higher end items in like safety deposit boxes, and then would just sit there and it like, I don't know. And then you're trying to like build the following on Instagram by like, making posts and being relevant. And again, it's not like flexing, look at my stuff, like look how cool I am, nothing that like I genuinely love this stuff and I want to connect with other collectors, and there's nothing better than when I see somebody post something that I like and I reach out and we start a conversation. And so that's what I'm hoping to do with this stuff. And so it's nice to have it on hand, you know what I mean, to be able to make certain posts or whatever. And then, doing the lives, starting to do that more often. I usually show a couple of, my sealed cards in the background or some boxes or something like that. So it's like nice to have it here in my room because this is what I love. It's not just about money for me. Like I genuinely enjoy this stuff. And so being able to come into this room, like I get happy every time, dude. Like it makes me so happy. And I don't have kids yet. Getting married next year, but not married yet. And so it's like my lifestyle allows me to have this right now. And it's like, who knows how much longer I'll be able to do something like that, So yeah, it's this balance. I want to be safe. I don't want to just put my stuff out to the world and, all that stuff. So, investing in like security and stuff for the house. And, I live in a small resort town anyways, which is, fairly safe. And, but yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to have something close by, like even if it's just a few items, to keep you connected. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's just my opinion.
The amount of conversations that have started out of me having this stuff in the background, mostly people asking, "Where'd you get this thing?" and then me sending them the Poke Dreamer. But like, a lot of conversations have come out of having stuff on display, which is really cool. It's to Rob's point, people engage more, right?
My man cave.
Yeah, it's like this was my work from home office during COVID, and now I got to bring my screens to my office, and got to build it out a little more in here and actually enjoy being in this room instead of feeling like, I was in a windowless box working my face off, So it's part of it's that too, right? Like you kind of like overcorrect, but it's cool. And for me, I'm just like very OCD, which you probably couldn't tell if you saw the amount of freaking Weiss cards on my desk right now. But everything's like thematic. Like I have shelves and areas, and it's all like it's like a puzzle for me, right? Of how I put it together. And I look forward to having a bigger space that I can optimize more and display more and like really, really enjoy even more. But
there's more space in Texas. Did you know that?
I'm actually considering Nashville at some point.
Ooh, that's a great option.
I'm going there next week. We have a facility about an hour south of Tennessee, hour south of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And I envision us having an office there or some sort of manufacturing facility there or something. So it's a possibility for sure. It's, again, to Rob's point, I'm young, single, my mom lives here part of the year and my grandma's here, but like mm-hmm. ain't nothing keeping me here. So, but I can do this for now, so.
That's what's up, man. That's awesome. Any questions in the chat while we have Jarrod? We're at that a little bit over 2-hour mark, and definitely want to be respectful of his time and Connor's time. I mean, it's almost your bedtime, Connor. Surprised you're not yawning, dude.
I'm doing it. I got my second. Jarrod, talk to us about video games. What are you doing with video games?
Let's see what I got.
Ooh, this is interesting.
So this one, I just started learning, so I'm starting off with some basics here. So get rid of the glare here.
Beautiful.
I don't know if I can get it, but it's Mario Kart 64. It's a 7.5. It was the only one available on eBay at the time that I started researching it and stuff like that. I have been watching a lot of graded games. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
What's the seal on it?
It is a A+ seal.
Nice.
So it displays really strong, except for the bottom right corner on the front. But I've been really watching the graded game market. And let's see what else we got here. I've been seeing a lot of sales of graded games that have been sitting on eBay for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like Modern Warfare's, different Call of Duty games, Halo games, Pokemon games, Smash Bros, Mario Kart, stuff like that. And that really intrigues me. So I've been really trying to educate myself on this. I don't know that it'll ever be part of the business, but it'll be more of a collecting thing because this is nostalgic. If I sell this, then I'll just upgrade it to a higher grade. If I sell any of these games. Yes. Yep.
They look good.
They look good.
They look real good.
This one's special. I call it the bug catcher copy because actually it has the qualifier of insects under seal on my Pokemon Yellow. And if you look really close, you can't see it on camera, but there are insects under, trapped under. You can actually make out like a fossilized bug right here under the seal. Wow. Really cool. So bug catcher copy. It's the only one that I know of. And then
cool.
I just think N64 games look so good. Like that rectangle box, and they're all like bright and colorful. It's so nostalgic.
It's something that I wish modern Pokemon boxes would go back to, like the WOTC style, or like what Japanese does, having an actual box that is displayable versus like modern English. I mean, let's be real, the boxes suck. Like they're really ugly boxes.
Yeah. The only play in modern English for me for display is the tin case.
Yeah. Yep. Or like ETBs.
Or ETBs, yeah.
So just a couple graded games. That's what I'm doing with it. Just toying with it, trying to learn it more, trying to educate myself on seals and how the grading scale is. But I do like WOTC games. I like their cases a lot better. In my opinion, they look better. But I know some people think the opposite. They think, VGA is king, which is great. I just like the look of the WOTC.
Me too. The only thing I don't like about WOTC is the grade is like sideways. If it's like the N64 game, it's not on the top like VGA, but you know.
I'm thinking, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking you could put it up here. I want to say that's an option for N64 games. Could be totally.
Oh, really?
I want to say.
Oh.
They recently started doing that. I haven't looked myself, but I also bought a Mario Kart DS. I played that a lot growing up. So just buying the games that are nostalgic. If I sell them, you might see my Instagram. Probably going to upgrade to a higher grade as I kind of learn it. But I don't want to invest personal money into it if I don't know about it and really just screw myself over.
Yeah.
So you learn, start small and try to upgrade and go from there.
For sure.
We all do in Pokemon cards.
To both of you and to the chat as well, if you guys could get any, like, let's just pick any 3 games from your childhood, if you could just have them graded, sealed, whatever, like for display purposes or whatever, what would they be?
Pokemon Yellow with a pixelated ESRB.
So
9.0 or above with an A+ seal.
I know the copy you're talking about.
I whiffed on that 8.5, by the way. I tried to get it under $2,000. It went for like 2,200 with BP. It just was above my threshold. 8.5 is not bad though.
Yeah.
For me, it's that. It's probably. I mean, I Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which I have, which like sounds weird because it is like technically a sellable piece of my personal collection, but it is the game that I played most outside of Yellow. Like I just played the heck out of that game. And I don't know what my third would be. I mean, I own pinball and I love Pokemon pinball, but that was more trying to move a piece, kind of dip my toe into the market, which like, I don't know. I did okay. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I don't know what my third one would be. It would probably be like silver or gold. I mean, because that was what I played the most after that. So how about you, Jarrod?
I would go with Pokemon Red. And then a higher grade of Mario Kart 64, and then maybe like a nice Ocarina of Time and a high grade on N64. I think those 3 I've played a lot of.
Link's Awakening might bump out.
Yeah, I mean that one's close up there. That one's close up
for me. I never had a system until Xbox, like the original Xbox, but I always had handhelds. So I had Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, PSP.
Did you ever have the Game Boy Micro? Did you ever do that?
No, I know, not as a kid. Like I've had them. My buddy's big into handhelds, so I've played them. But Echo the Dolphin.
What is Echo the Dolphin?
I've never heard of Echo the Dolphin.
Never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
Share screen.
That's hilarious.
My God. It's a Sega Genesis game. Where is there like a good picture? I mean, other than the cover of gameplay.
Sega Genesis. That was fun.
Yes.
Or the
N64 was my childhood, though.
It's awesome.
You said N64.
It was my childhood. Like when I think about it the most, like for me, it's got to be the original, or not the original, it's the second one. So Gauntlet Legends, I love that game. I played that game so much. Perfect Dark. Yeah, I wasn't a GoldenEye guy. I didn't like it. There was something about it. It was like inverse shooting. I didn't like how it worked. I like Perfect Dark. I don't know. And then Conker's Bad Fur Day. Like that was like
great game too.
Yeah, it was so dirty and raunchy. I remember I was like 6th or 7th grade, and like I tried to buy it, and my mom wouldn't let me. And so like one of my buddies like smuggled it into my birthday party, and we just like played it all night. Like just really good times, you know.
Let's just appreciate the bad gaming angles of N64 and how you could get stuck in like a corner and you like restart.
Yeah.
For the days.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys remember when you would go, maybe this is just me, but you would go on vacation with your family growing up, and when I was a kid, I remember there being like the gaming systems built into the hotel TVs. And for some reason, we played an inordinate amount of Crash Bandicoot. And that was the only exposure I ever had to it was like playing it on family trips at hotels. It was like a thing across hotels, and I would play Crash Bandicoot with my brother, and that's all I never owned the game. I just would play it on family trips. But did you guys ever play the Pokemon trading card game on Game Boy Color?
Oh yeah,
I loved that game. That's oh man, this is tough.
Don't look at my search history on eBay right now. It has that on it. Yeah, looking at prices on it.
Definitely Star Fox. Oh man, that's a good one. Tilsdale's.
Yeah,
I forgot about Star Fox.
I have Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone CIB. Great box. I don't know if I really need it graded because I didn't play it that much. Or sorry, Game Boy Advance, right? But I played it, and it's just Harry Potter, so like integral to my childhood. But it's a great box. I mean, it's a really nice CIB. It has the promo in it and all that stuff. It's cool.
That's the interesting thing about grading games is the option for CIB, like complete inbox, and like the value of say like Super Mario World on Super Nintendo. That wasn't a heavily printed game with the box. It was generally just a cartridge. And so getting that as a display piece is cool. You know, it's a very interesting aspect of just graded games.
Hot take. I think that graded CIB games are the stupidest thing ever. That's just my take. Like, because I think that if you have a CIB game, you should be able to open it up, take it apart, and look at all the stuff because it's freaking not sealed. And that's what it's there for. And then you can play it if you want. Imagine that. But like, I don't know. It's weird to me. It's
really weird.
I know people like it, but that is like a very controversial thing in video game land for video game collectors is graded CIB games. It's interesting.
Let me just crack a box, rip all the packs, put the empty packs back in the box, and then get that graded.
Dude, someone just paid
sell it for a premium.
Yeah. $20,000 for an empty box to complete a CIB for I forget what the game was. I think it was on Heritage or Golden, but it wasn't even. It was like because you got to put the pieces together, right? And it was like that's a cardboard box. Wow.
Yeah. And I like the empty boxes, you know, that people can just put on display. You know what I mean? Like it makes it look like a card shop vibe, or like who is it on Instagram that has done that with all the Japanese e-reader sets and then all of the Gold Star era boxes, all the PCG boxes, which are pretty tougher to find. It's Poker Prism. That's who it is. I'm pretty sure it's Poker Prism. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it looks like his display is so sick, and then he just buys loose packs and then he puts them in those boxes, so it like has a total card shop vibe feel. That to me is like so cool. I love that for sure.
So you're telling me I should open that Eevee Heroes box and put the empty box back in the acrylic, and it's the same?
Yes.
No. He keeps it open. There's no acrylic box.
In like card shop.
Yeah, like a card shop.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Just display stuff, man. You know, having fun with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool ways to display your collection now, and that's I think, Jarrod, that's gonna be a really interesting part of your business is how shark sleeves evolve into like whatever other physical products you end up doing, because like the guys who are doing really well are the guys, you know, Black Card X and Poke Dreamer and whoever's, you know, like you mentioned before, Graded Guard, and like all these people who are doing ancillary products to the hobby without actually having to be involved directly with the cards is like brilliant. I mean, great businesses if you can make it work the right way. You just got to be careful, obviously, but they're filling a very necessary void because people want to display their stuff. And there's not a ton of good options still, honestly. Like there's like those old, like I had them, those like sports card cabinets, like they're wood with like the door that's like glass. Yeah. I got a baseball one of those. I got a lot of those. That's what I think Akora did really well. They shipped their boxes with acrylic boxes that are like stamped with the logo. It's really cool. Yeah. Really nice idea.
Yeah, until I see like 20 different case companies, display options, stuff like that. Like there's so much room for growth in that. So I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff come out. I don't have any like new products in the pipeline, but I have some changes and updates that I think will make what I currently have better. But yeah, I really like Graded Guard. Little plug, I actually partnered with them, so we'll be offering Graded Guard products on the Kanto Shark shop. I really like what they did with the cases, and super high quality and a great person, great team, Graded Guard. So little plug for them right now.
That's cool.
And then Poke Dreamer as well makes phenomenal stuff.
Gem Mint was in the chat earlier too. He makes these, and then he makes like storage boxes, or he rebrands and puts display tops on top of like kind of an off the shelf solution. And they're really nice. They help me organize my stuff. So and they're like good people, right? To your point, it's like I have relationships with these guys, and they're doing me a good service because I get to use their products. So, dude, I still got some of the Pokeball displays and some of those black pack displays. I got a few of those. They're around. They're over there. They're displaying stuff.
I would like to get a few.
I might have some internet issues. Might have to wrap it up. We got a major storm coming here in
No worries, man. It's super fun having you on, bro. Thank you so much. Great chat. Appreciate everybody in the chat for joining, hanging out,
legit,
talking video games and cardboard. It's always good stuff.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you all for having me. It's been I really enjoy listening to y'all's podcast and different talks and discussions. And when y'all are guests on other podcasts, I jump in those. So yeah, thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do it again. Love talking,
man, for sure.
And this is the second podcast that I've done, so it's a blast. So hopefully you guys will have me back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if anybody is curious, all the links to Jarrod's socials and website and all that type of good stuff, YouTube, go check them out. They're doing the box breaks, and should be some good stuff along the way. Go show them some support if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button; it's free. And
join the Discord.
Yeah. He actually has a killer Discord. I just joined, and it's actually really good. So really fun. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Well, y'all have a great night, and look forward to the next.
See y'all.
All right, guys. See you.